Vows, the 22nd episode of Chicago PD Season 12, introduces a new antagonist who might pose a greater threat to Voit than Reid. During Season 12 of Chicago PD, Reid served as Voight's primary adversary. He had the authority to obstruct Voight's operations of the intelligence unit because he was the deputy chief of the Chicago Police Department. Voit and Reid's power fight began as espionage, with both parties spying on the other. But it turned personal when Reid had Burgess suspended and Torres imprisoned over the Gloria Perez scandal. In Vows, the altercation between Reid and Voit erupts. Following Torres's arrest, Voit excludes Chapman, despite the fact that she is both his girlfriend and his accomplice in taking down Reid, because he intends to break the law in order to solve the Reid issue. The disagreement between Chapman and Voit in Chicago Police finale of Season 12 described the main factor in Chapman and Voight's breakup is how Voit decides to resolve his disagreement with Reid. Reid was being legally overthrown by Chapman and Voit before he used his authority to dissolve the intelligence unit. They had started to compile proof that Reid was connected to well-known gang leaders like Jesus Otero. Despite Voight's denials and her inability to provide evidence, Chapman soon came to the conclusion that Voit was responsible for the murder. But there is much more to this conflict than just one occurrence. Chapman thinks Voit has evolved and no longer resorts to violence or dubious means to obtain justice. Chapman may turn against intelligence and strength as a result of her heartbreak. Chapman is devastated that rather than working with her to legally eliminate Reid, Voit cut her off and went rogue. Characters who experience this kind of disillusionment frequently resort to drastic measures in an attempt to exact retribution or return things to how they were before the disruption. In order to develop the kind of case against Voit that she hoped he would assist her in developing against Reid, Chapman might utilize her authority as an assistant state attorney. The next stage is to provide evidence to support her suspicion that Voit was involved in Reid's death. Why Chapman in Chicago Police Department may be more dangerous than Reid. Despite his danger, Reid had a number of flaws that Chapman did not. When Burgess passed the exam to become a detective, he tipped his hand early on by moving her back to intelligence. Voit was able to easily thwart his ambitions because it was evident from this power move that he was attempting to use Burgess against him by making her pay his debt. In Season 13 of Chicago PD, Voight's past relationship with Chapman might prove to be his downfall. Because of how close they were, Chapman is aware of many of Voight's psychological flaws and some of his secrets.